James Shaw.
Mr Speaker, I rise to support this bill to Select Committee as well. I would just like to start by associating myself with the comments previously by the Right Honourable Annette King and Chris Hipkins on the possibility of creeping corruption in New Zealand politics and the need to remain vigilant. Because New Zealand has got an excellent reputation and has great standards in this area, it's no reason for us not to continue to raise our standards and to modernise them and to keep our eye on the ball. I particularly wanted to acknowledge or reinforce the comments that the Right Honourable Annette King made in reference to Transparency International, which I just want to acknowledge that it has an incredibly important role to play in keeping an eye on corruption around the world and in New Zealand. And I was delighted when I was many years ago working at Price Waterhouse, looking at what kind of role the assurance industry had in this field, to be able to interview the late Jeremy Pope, who was at that time the Executive Director of Transparency International based in London, and a very fine New Zealander. So there are three things that I just want to sort of make some brief comments on. I'll keep this a fairly short call because many of the comments that I was going to make have already been made. I do want to reinforce the point about people trafficking. I mean, it is an absolutely extraordinarily terrible offence, and overseas many thousands and tens of thousands of women are trafficked and find themselves at the mercy of gangsters and the mafia. And it's vital that New Zealand does all that it can to stamp out this scourge. It is slavery by another name. It's simply a modern form of slavery, and we need to do everything that we can to play our part to eradicate in that. The comment has also been made that the perception of being corruption-free is important for business, and it is incredibly important for that. So again, based on my experience internationally, knowing that we came from New Zealand, that I came from New Zealand, people often remarked that it was a great place to do business with because people were straight up and that you could be, fair, rely on that kind of deal, and that your money was going to go to the purposes for which it was intended. So it is incredibly important that we maintain that. This bill also brings us up to a modern standard, and this is a good thing. I think it was we originally signed the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in 2003, so it's taken more than 10 years to get us to this point where passing this legislation will enable us to ratify that convention, along with many of the other conventions that Annette King referred to. And as we do so, we've got to recognise that the ground is moving underneath us. So as we pass this bill through the House, that we just need to be very mindful that the things that we're up against are also continuing to move, enabled by technology in a globalising world, that we will need to not stop with this piece of legislation, but to keep our eye on further developments. So the Green Party does support this bill through to Select Committee. We do have some things that we want to keep an eye on. We've got some civil liberties concerns that we want to be addressed, or some practical concerns that we'd like to be addressed. Notably, the requirement under the anti-money laundering rules to report transactions of $1,000 or more. That has got to be an absolutely enormous number of transactions. And again, I know through my own business, I mean, working in, being based in New Zealand, but having a company based in London and clients based in other parts of the world, that we're doing transactions all the time. And I am a very, very small businessman. And if you multiply that out across the number of businesses in New Zealand that are trading internationally, we just need to keep one eye on the practicalities of how we're going to manage that. Another one is around information sharing, and this is an ongoing concern and developing concern in New Zealand with that has had some publicity over the course of the last 12 months. I'd like to refer to another bill here, which was one that was passed last year, the Taxation Annual Rates Employee Allowances and Remedial Matters Bill. which enabled the United States to look into the bank accounts of New Zealand citizens living in New Zealand if they also happen to be US citizens and liable to paying US tax. So that was an information sharing agreement that we had with the United States, but it is a huge invasion of privacy of people who are doing absolutely nothing wrong other than living in this country, that we're giving a foreign government the ability to look into the bank accounts of New Zealand citizens in this country, New Zealand bank accounts as well. So that we just want to keep an eye on that. We understand that information sharing is absolutely critical, to be able to stamp out crime, but it is one thing that we wanted to keep an eye on. So we support this, and we'll be doing everything that we can to ensure that the legislation doesn't infringe on New Zealanders' rights. We'll be looking forward to seeing how this legislation meshes with the Bill of Rights and any other concerns on how it can infringe with civil liberties. Having said that, we're very supportive of the aims of this bill.